Hello and welcome to the Jems tutorial. My name is Răzvan Zanfir. I work for the Romania-Bulgaria Interreg Programme and I'll be presenting the monitoring system used by the Interreg VI-A Romania-Bulgaria Programme. Before starting, I just want to show you that the link to access the system is jems-robg.medlepa.ro, which you can also find in the applicant's guide available on the program website. However, for the purpose of this video, I will not be using the official platform of Jems. I'll be using the test version, which is similar to the official one. Here in the login page, you can see that in order to log in, I have to fill in my email address and the password. After that, the login button. Under this, you can see that we have a create new account button and a forgot password button, which you'll be using in case you have forgotten your password. But first, let's start by creating a new account. In order to create a new account, you'll have to fill in a form with your information. Start with your first name, your last name, and your official email address. I recommend that you use your work email address for creating the Jems account. Okay, after that you'll have to create a password, and you'll see that there is a disclaimer under the password field notifying me that the password needs to have at least 10 characters. It should contain at least one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, and one digit. And I'll show you an example. You can see that already the system has identified that the account I have entered, the password I have entered, is valid. Next, in order to finalize the registration, I have to fill in a security code. And I also have to agree to the terms, service and privacy policy. After that, I click on the register button and the system notifies me that I have received an email on the email address I have used to create my account with a link that allows me to confirm my email in order to have access to the system. So after that, I click on the go to login, and now I can log in into the system after I have confirmed my account. So for this video, I'm going to log in with an already created account. Once again, your username is your email address and also includes the created password. And let's see what happens if I enter the incorrect password. You can see the system informs me that the email or password was incorrect, so you'll have to check again to see if your username or your password were introduced incorrect. And in case you have forgotten your password, you can use the forgot password button, in which you have only one field to fill in, your email address. Click the email reset link, you'll receive a link on your email, and you can reset your password. For now, let's log in into the system. Okay, I'll introduce the correct password this time. And click on the login button, and now I have access to the system. When you first log in into the system, the first screen which appears is the dashboard, and let's make a short presentation of the screen. You have on the top the dashboard button, and wherever you are in the system, if you press this button, it will take you back here to this screen. On the top right, you can see the user. Just want to mention here that when creating an account, the system automatically assigns to that user the role of applicant. You can see here my user is an applicant user. To the right, you see we have a logout button, also a language button, and in the case of the Interreg Romania-Bulgaria program, there's only the option to select English as it is the official language of the program. And you also have a help button, which you have here is multiple options. You can select help desk. Also, there's a contact us email address, the terms and privacy policy, the accessibility statement, and also the version of the system. Moving down, we can see we have my applications. It's a table with the projects entered, with the applications entered by that user. And depending on the status of the project, you will have multiple information here in this table. First of all, the ID of the project, which is generated automatically by the system, the acronym of the project, the first submission date, the latest resubmission date, the program priority, specific objective, the status of the application, in which in this case it's draft, and also the related call in which it was created. And moving a bit down, you can see we have the call list. It's a table with all the calls, not only the open calls, but also the calls which have ended or haven't begun yet. And in case you will have a call which is not active, then the apply button will not be active and you cannot apply with applications on that related call. In our case, all three calls have active buttons. The information available in the call list table is related to the ID of the call, name, status, when the call started, when the call will end, and you can see that here is mentioned not only the date but also the hour, and the action buttons. Once again, if the apply button is not active, then you cannot apply for the respective call. So next I'll be presenting how to fill in an application in the Jems monitoring system. And in order to do so, I need to first identify the call in which I want to submit my application, and after that I can click the apply button. But before starting, I want to mention that during this presentation, apart from presenting all the sections and fields of the application, I will be giving examples from the applicant's guide of the competitive call for specific objectives 2.4 and 2.7. So I will be making reference to specific rules under this call, but only for example purposes. In case you want to apply for a different call, you can still use this presentation, but also check out the applicant's guide for that call in order to refer to its specific rules. Moving on, after I have clicked the apply button, this screen appeared in which it is mentioned that I can create a new project application. So in this first screen, I can see information about the call I want to apply, in which I want to apply, the name of the call, the start date, the end date, and I can also view other detailed call information. And if I click the button, you see I can see here more details related to this specific call, also the start date, end date, also with the hours, the period length, in months. So here you can see the predefined periods for this call is 4 months. Also, I can see a description of the call, the program priorities opened, the strategies I can select, and we will talk about this later in when filling in the application. And also the available funds for this call, which of course under this program, Romania-Bulgaria program, it's ERDF, and the set rate is 80%. And I also click again apply, and it takes me back to the previous screen. I also receive a hint from the system that all project data can be changed before submission. This means that after the project is submitted, the application will be closed and I can no longer make any changes on it. So let's create our application. So the first field I need to fill in is the project acronym, and I will call my project test ROBG, and then I can create my project application. Now we have our first contact with the application form, and the first screen opened is the project identification section. But you can see that on the left side we have a menu of the application form, and here you can see all the sections, and we will go through each and one of them. But also here on the top you can see we have the project version, which in our case now is draft, is version 1.0, as we just created our application. Also, I mentioned earlier that wherever you are in the system, if you click the dashboard button, it will take you back to the dashboard screen, to the initial screen. And here you can see now that our newly created project appears with the ID ROBG41. And if I want to access it, I just click on the project, and it takes me to the project overview, in which I have information about my application. You can see here the status, which is draft. It was open today on the 16th, and I can see my project ID and acronym, the applicant username, and the call, and for now just the call in which it was created. Also other information will be available after we fill it in. But to go back to the project identification, our first section, A1, you can see first that we have here an asterisk that indicates that information is required for saving. So I will scroll a bit down, and you can see that this asterisk appears here at the program priority, which means that this field is absolutely necessary to be filled in, otherwise the system will not let me save. However, please take into consideration that also other fields, if they are not filled in, the system will not let you submit the project. But we will discuss this when we will get to the check and submit part of the system. You'll see there that there will be a pre-submission check, a run pre-submission check, and the system will show me what fields need to be filled in order to submit the project. But we will talk about this a bit later. So let's start filling in our project. Once again, here you have some pre-filled in information, the project ID, which is automatically created by the system, as I mentioned earlier. In our case, we have ROBG41. Also, the the project acronym, which I filled in when creating the application. And next I have to fill in the project title. So let's fill in a project title. You can also see that each field has a number of characters, a limit of characters that can be filled in. For example, the project acronym has 25 characters, the project title has 200 characters, and of course, depending on the field, this number of characters may increase or decrease, and therefore take into consideration to limit the descriptions when entering them in the system, because otherwise the system will not allow you to exceed this number of characters. Okay, moving on with the project duration. Let's say, for example, that my project has a project duration of 36 months. As I showed you earlier, the period length is predefined by the system, and for this call it is 4 months. And the system calculates automatically the number of periods depending on the number of months of the project. So in this case, we have because we have a 36 months duration, the number of periods is 9. Okay, moving down, we have to select the project priority and specific objective. Again, here this field has an asterisk, so it is mandatory in order to save. So we'll select the program priority, and which in this case is only priority 2. It is the priority this call addresses, and after I select the priority, the system automatically generates the specific objectives, because I also have to select a specific objective in order to move on. You can see that this option also has an asterisk, so it is mandatory in order to save. So let's select specific objective 2.4 as an example, of course. And you can see that now the save button has already appeared, and I can save the changes. The system informs me that the project identification was saved. And also, in order to move on, I also need to fill in a project summary. You can see that for the project summary, the number of character is significantly larger than the other fields, the project title, for example. So I will fill in a project summary and also save again. I would recommend that you save quite frequently in order to be sure that the system will save the information and you will not lose information in case, for example, your internet connection fails and so on. But before moving on, I have to mention that in the field project acronym, you need to write the type of your project, meaning soft or hard. So this means that if your project is hard, for example, the project acronym will have, apart from the already written here acronym test.bg, the mention that if it's hard or soft. So if this is a hard project, it will be mentioned here hard. Also, in the project summary, apart from what I already said, that you need to include here the overview of your project and describe all the things mentioned here. You also need to include, if any, the non-eligible expenditures. So the applicant guide mentions that the project budget must be within the set threshold. This is clear. and the program will grant maximum the amount included in the table. So if the final proposed value is exceeding the threshold, the difference should be included in the budget as non-eligible costs or non-refundable funds. If the case, these these amounts will be mentioned here in the project summary because there is no other dedicated section in the budget for those non-eligible expenditures, so they will be mentioned here in project summary. If you are sure that all the information in this section has been filled in, you can move on to the next section. Of course, you can always come back to review your information, to modify it in case you need to. So moving on, the next section would be project overview tables. However, at this moment it is empty. This section only shows information generated automatically by the system, but after we have introduced the project budget and also the project outputs and results uh, in the respective fields. I will show you later where this information will be introduced, and we will come back to this section after we finalize the introduction of the budget and the outputs and results. But for now, we can move on to the part B, partners overview. This section is also empty at the current moment as we haven't added any new partners. But in order to add a partner, you just click on the related button, and the screen has now changed into the partner identity. Here I have to introduce the identity of the partner I want to create. Also, you can see that the system can not let me create the partner at the current moment. We have the create button is not active as I haven't filled in yet the relevant information. As you can see, we have some fields with asterisks, and so the system cannot let me create the partner yet. So let's start filling in the information. This is the first partner, so I will assign it the role of lead partner. The first field I have to fill in is the abbreviation. So let's name it LP. Next, I have to fill in the name of the organization in the original language. So I will name it okay. I will write the name in Romanian as for this example I will say that the lead partner is from Romania, and the name of the organization in English. Okay, and next, in case the organization which is the lead partner in the project applies with one of its departments or units or division, then you can mention this information here. Okay. Next, we move on to the legal information, the legal and financial information of the lead partner. For the purpose of this example, I'm going to say that this partner is a local public authority. Therefore, the legal status is public. Next, we have a field referring to the sector of activity of this partner. However, as far as I know, for the official version of the system, this field is no longer mandatory to be filled in. So we'll move on to the VAT number or other identifier. Here you can write your VAT number, or you could add For example, for Bulgarian beneficiaries, the Bulstat, or for Romanian beneficiaries, the financial identification number. I'll just write here some example data. You see that there's up to 50 characters. Next, it's a question. Is your organization entitled to recover VAT based on national legislation for the activities implemented in the project? So if your institution uh, is recovering VAT, then you should click yes. Or if it partially may recover VAT, you can click partially. Or if it doesn't, then you can select no. For this example, I'm going to select no, as this is a local public authority. Also, in case you have another identification number, you can write it here. Also, if there is another identification number, you can write the description of that identifier. The next field, however, is mandatory to be filled in by all partners. The PYC, which stands for Participant Identification Code, which can be obtained by registering the organization on the EC Participant Register. So some of the beneficiaries, some of the partners could be already registered and could already have this PYC. In case you do not have it, then refer to, for example, in our case, the Annex K1 to the Applicant's Guide for the Competitive Call for Specific Objectives 2.4 and 2.7, which is the description of the application form offline. And you can see here that you can register in the EC participant register by clicking the available hyperlink here, and here you can this link will take you to the eceuropa.eu, and here you can search for a PYC, or you can click the register your organization button and you can obtain your own number, your own code, and after that you can fill it in the then you can fill it in the respective field. After you have filled in also this information, then you can also click on the create button, and therefore the partner will be officially created. And you can see that now other subsections of this section have appeared, in which I have to introduce data, other data related to this partner, apart from the identity I have already filled in. So let's move on to the next section in order to fill in the information about the lead partner. The next section is the address, and here we have to fill in the information about the address, the main address of the partner, or if applicable, the address of the department, unit, or division. As I said earlier, in case the respective organization wishes to apply within a project with department, unit, or division from its organization, then it has to fill in the information related to that here. Okay, so the first thing that appears in the partner address, it's related to the system, shows us information about the NUTS codes and how to identify your region in case you are not familiar with the NUTS codes. So you'll see here the system offers you a link so you can check out the information there. But let's continue by filling in the information of the address. Let's search first for the country. In our case, for this example, we're going to select Romania. The NUTS 2, we have to select the region. So let's select Southeast. And NUTS 3, we can select the county. Let's select for this example Constanța. After that, we have to write the name of the street, the house number, the postal code. We'll just write some dummy information here. And also, of course, the city. Let's say that this lead partner is from Constanța. Also here, we have to fill in the home page, of the website, so the link to the website of the institution. And after that, we can save the changes. For the purpose of this example, we will not be filling in the address, department, unit, or division. We can move on by filling in the contact information for the legal representative and for a contact person. So let's start with the information about the legal representative. The title be, for example, Miss, Mrs, or Mr. The first name of the legal representative, the last name also, and then we can move on to fill in information related to the contact person, also the title, Miss, Mrs, or Mr. The first name, let's say that for our example, the contact person is different from the legal representative. First name, last name, the email address, absolutely necessary in order to be contacted. For this example, let's say it's the same email address as the account, the username, and also, of course, a telephone number in order to be contacted, to be allowed to be contacted more easily. And you can see if I add other characters, the system will inform me that the only valid characters here are numbers. So I have to delete the dot and fill in a valid input. And after that, I can save the changes. You can see it informs me that partner contact was saved successfully. We can now move on to the next subsection of the lead partner information, which is motivation. So here, the beneficiary, the partner, has to enter its motivation and contribution to the project. And here you have to address three aspects to answer first two questions. The first one is, which of the organization's thematic competences and experience are relevant for the project? And here you can enter your description. You can see that here the system allows a generous number of characters, 3,000 characters for all the three fields in this section. The limit of characters is 3,000. So here you can enter, you have to enter the description, the competences and experience which are relevant for the project. Don't forget that all this information in this section is very important for evaluation purposes. So try to explain these roles very carefully. Also, you have to explain what is the role, contribution, and main activities of your organizations in the project, and also, if applicable, to describe the organization's experience in participating or managing EU co-financed projects or other international projects. You can see that this is if applicable. It is possible if your institution has never worked in EU co-funded projects or international projects to participate in projects within the Romania-Bulgaria program. So you can write here not applicable if this is the case for your institution. Next, let's move on to the budget. So in the Jems system, the budget is introduced separately for each partner. And here in the budget section, you can see first the partner budget overview, which is an course overview of this partner's budget split by cost category, staff costs, office and administration, and so on, and of course a total. Of course, here appears also the lump sum, which will not be introduced here in this section. It will be introduced at a later stage, but I will show you after we fill in the first part of the budget. So, moving on, we need to first select the flat rate options available for example, for this competitive call for specific objectives 2.4 and 2.7. If we read the applicant's guide, we can see that there are 3 flat rate options under this call: for staff costs, for office and administrative costs, and for travel and accommodation. And if I want to select, for example, the staff cost, I check the box for staff cost flat rate, and the system automatically generates the 20% rate. However, if we read the applicant's guide, you can see that this percentage is not mandatory. You can select between 1 to 20% flat rate for staff costs. So the total staff cost flat rate is calculated by applying the rate to the sum of direct costs under the budgetary chapters: external expertise and services, equipment, and infrastructure and works. So let's say, for example, for our projects that we select 20%, you will see that if you try to introduce, for example, 1.5%, the system will not allow you. You can only add round percentages from 1 to 20. But for our project, we will introduce a maximum, which is 20% staff cost flat rate from the direct costs. Next, we'll check the box for office and administrative costs, which are calculated by applying the rate to the total staff costs. So in our case, the system also calculates automatically the highest rate, which is 15%, but of course this is also not mandatory. You can select a rate between 1 to 15% for office and administrative costs. And for travel and accommodation, flat rate is the same, is calculated by applying the rate to the total staff costs. Also, the system generates automatically the highest rate, but you can also select from 1 to 15%. For the purpose of this example, we will select the highest rate, Again, for staff cost, 20% from the direct costs. For office and administrative costs and for travel and accommodation, the flat rate is calculated by applying the rate to the total staff costs. And after selecting these flat rate options, we can save the changes and we can then move on to filling in the direct costs for our project. So in order to do this, I have to scroll down. But before that, you can see that after checking all the boxes for the flat rate options, the system has generated also here the total of the flat rate options amounts after. But these amounts will appear after I start filling in the direct costs. And also here you can see some explanations which I already mentioned related to how the flat rate is calculated. So let's move on to filling in some of the direct costs, and we'll start with external expertise and services. In order to add the cost under this cost category, we click the add button, and we can start filling in all the information. We can see here we have a description button. Here we can describe what type of external expertise and service we need for our project, and we will write, for example, we need interpretation. You can see here that under these fields you also have a limited number of characters. For the description is 255. For the next one it's 250, and here you have to mention to detail the service which you will need to purchase for your project. So mentioning here details. The next field is to select whether or not this service is linked to an investment. For now, we don't have any investments introduced, but these will be introduced in the work plan, and I will show you a bit later how to introduce an investment and then how to link it to a service. But of course, for this service interpretation, it will not be linked to any investment, so it will be left not applicable. Next, we'll introduce the unit type for this type of service. So for example, we have one contract, or maybe, I don't know, maybe two contracts for interpretation, and the price per unit will be, for example, 1,000 euro. And you see that the system has generated an announcement that I have to update the budget table. The sum of the amounts per period must match the budget item total. So after I introduce the price per unit, the system automatically calculates the total, because I have 2 units of 1,000 euro, therefore the total is 2,000 euro. And after that, I need to fill in the amounts per period. So again, if you remember, we have 9 periods for this project, and I have to split this 2,000 euro in the periods that in which I will use this service. So for example, I will use one contract in period 2, and I will add here 1,000 euro, and the other contract for interpretation I will use it in period 5, and I will add here another 1,000 euro. And you can see that already the system has that announcement disappeared, because now the total amount is matching the ones I introduced in the period. And just to show you, I will put the the amount for period 5 back to 0, and you can see that if I scroll all the way to the right, the system shows me the gap between the total amount and what I need to fill in the periods, and so that it will be easier for me to know how much is left to be introduced. So if I again introduced the 1000 euro under period 5, you can see the gap is now 0, and I can save my changes. In case you wish to delete a created service, you can delete it by clicking on this trash can, which is all the way, which is on the right of the table. Also, if you want to add another service, you click on the plus button, add here another service. Also, the details related to the respective service. If it's linked to an investment, the unit type, let's say we now have pieces, we'll have 3 services of now 500 euro. So again, I'll go in, I have to split this service into periods. But for this video, it's sufficient one example. I can now save changes again, and we can move on to the equipment. So for the equipment, the procedure is the same. Click on the add button, add here, mention what type of equipment you wish to purchase to the project, the description of the equipment, also if it's related to investment, in our case no, the unit type, also pieces, so let's say we'll need 10 pieces with also 1000 euro, and we need to split this amount of 10,000 euro into periods. Let's say that I will purchase 5 pieces in period 3, and you can see the gap is 5,000 euro again, and another 5 pieces in period 7, add the amount related to the 5 pieces in the respective period that I need, and save the changes. And for the last type of unit of direct costs, I can introduce the infrastructure and works, which is also, the procedure is also the same. I'll write here investment, the investment the investment description, the name of the investment, and also here some details about the investment. Of course, I mentioned earlier that in the work plan, and we will see a bit later in the video, that we will detail our investments in a separate section of the system in the work plan, and there we can write all the details related to the investment. This is only for the budget purpose, to introduce the details related to this. Of course, this will be related to an investment, the unit type, also the number of units, right here, for example, unit. The number of units will have one investment of, for example, 500,000 euro, and this will also be split into periods, for example, 200, half in period 3 and half in period 8. And the system can now let me save. And now if we scroll up, you can see that the system has already calculated the flat rates, because they calculated automatically in the basis of the rates which were introduced before. You can see that for staff costs, I now have the amount of over 100,000 euro, office and administration cost, travel and accommodation, which are exactly the same amount because they are exactly the same percentage. And all the way up, if we scroll, we can see the budget now split by cost category. First, starting with the staff costs, with the flat rates, and after that with the direct costs. And of course, lump sum still zero as it hasn't been introduced yet. And this is exactly what I'm going to show now, how to introduce also the lump sums. And the section is not here under partner, so you have to go in the to the left menu and check out the lump sums section under section E.1, and you can see here that here you can add your lump sums, and the procedure is quite simple. You click on the add button and the system generates you the project lump sum table. And here we can introduce our lump sums. So once again, if we read the applicant's guide for this call for proposal, for the competitive call, there are two types of lump sums offered under this call. One is for project preparation and the other one for project closure. So in the table, select the type of lump sum, and for let's select first the project preparation. I also need to select the period, which in this case, of course, it's preparation. And you can see here that for this call, the amount for project offered for lump sum for project preparation is 14,000 euro, which I can split between partners, but for the current moment, I only have introduced one partner, but I can introduce here, for example, only 10,000 euro for the lead partner, and after that I can save the changes. But you can see that at the top of the table, the system announces me that the sum of the amounts per partner must match the total lump sum costs. So I either select all the amount, the 14,000 euro, I assign it directly to the lead partner, which I'm going to do now, or only after I have already introduced the new partner, I can assign amounts for project preparation to that respective partner. And I can also add now the lump sum for project closure. Selecting the period, of course, it will be closure. And the amount, which for this call is 6,500 euro for project closure. And after that, I can save the changes. Also, if I want to during the filling in the application form, if I want to delete one of them, I can also by clicking on these trash cans. So if we go back again to the project partner, to the budget, we can see now that the system has included automatically in my project budget overview, in a partner budget overview, also the amount related to the lump sums. And now, of course, the total budget has been updated by adding also the lump sum. So I mentioned earlier that for project preparation, Under this call, the program offers the possibility of lump sums of up to 14,000 euro, which can be split between partners. And the lump sum for project preparation covers elaboration of applications for funding, including the annex mandatory for all applications. However, the program also allows, in addition to the lump sum for project preparation, for projects to have the possibility to ask the reimbursement of costs related to the annex to the application for financing on basis of real costs. So apart from the lump sums, for the lump sum for project preparation, the program also uh, allows to have real costs for project preparation. And I will give some examples of types of costs uh, which can be based on real costs for project preparation. This would be feasibility study or equivalent technical document, cost benefit analysis, studies, and costs for documentation necessary to obtain the necessary endorsements or authorizations, and so on. And because we are here at the budget of the lead partner, let me show you how you can introduce these amounts in the budget, because as I showed you earlier, the lump sums are introduced in section E for project preparation and also for closure. And if you identify also real costs for project preparation, you can introduce them here in the budget, depending on the cost category you have. So for example, if you, as I mentioned here, you have a feasibility study which you have to add under the real costs, then you can add here an external service and mention the type of service, for example, feasibility study. Write some details. So you introduce it as a normal, just as a normal a budgetary line, as a normal service. You need to link it to an investment. Of course, the unit type have, for example, a contract, one contract, and it costs, and the related costs here. And now, because I explained earlier that when introducing budget lines, expenditures, you need to split the total amount per period under project preparation, which will be requested based on real costs, which will be reimbursed based on real costs. All the amount will be introduced under period 1, because that's when it is mandatory to be requested, as it is written in the applicant's guide. The expenditure for project preparation based on real cost must be requested in the first reporting period, otherwise they would be considered ineligible. So please make sure that if you have project preparation based on real cost, that you will request them in the first period. And also technically in the system you will introduce this amount also in the first period, and then you can save the changes. And of course the total budget was updated with this expenditure also. And one more thing to mention here before moving on to the next section, to co-financing. When introducing an expenditure related to project preparation reimbursed based on real costs, it would be helpful to mention in the comments that this expenditure is related to project preparation, and this would help other people which are reviewing the project, which are reading the project, uh, to identify that this expenditure is now is related to project preparation, and it will be reimbursed based on real costs. Now let's move on to the next section, which is co-financing. Here in this section, in the first table, you can define your co-financing. And as I mentioned earlier, the only co-financing source for this program is ERDF, which stands for European Regional Development Fund, and the predefined rate for ERDF is 80%. And you can see that the system has calculated automatically based on the partner total eligible budget the 80% which is representing the ERDF. Moving down, each partner has to include the origin of the partner contribution. So in this table, partners have to indicate the source of their partner contribution. The system by default includes the partner organization as the first contribution source, assuming that the contribution is from own resources. The partner contribution can be either public or private, and this is to be selected from the drop-down menu right here. In case of own resources, partners have to select the public or private nature of the contribution coherently with their legal status as chosen in section Partner Identity. And I will go back to Partner Identity. I will lose the changes for now because I haven't inserted all the data. And as I mentioned before, we have selected in partner identity the legal status of the partner, which is public. So therefore, in co-financing, when filling in the legal status of the partner, I will select also public, just to select again the RDF in order for the system to automatically calculate the 80%. And now, again, if we read the applicant's guide for the call we are discussing, the competitive call for specific objectives 2.4 and 2.7, you can see that there are three sources of financing for a project within this call, and of course within this Romania-Bulgaria program. The 80%, as I already mentioned, are from the European Commission through ERDF. 2% represents the partner's contribution, and the difference of 18% is covered by the Romanian state budget or by the Bulgarian state budget, depending on the nationality of the beneficiary, of the applicant, let's say. So, in this case, as I mentioned, the source of contribution here is predefined by the system as the own contribution of the lead partner. But in order to add the state budget contribution, I have to click on Add New Contribution Origin and mention here the source. So in our case, it's raw state budget, as the nationality of the partner is Romanian, and of course the legal status of the contribution will also be public. So what I have to do next is to calculate the own contribution of the partner and the contribution from the state budget. And as you can see up here, after the system automatically calculates the 80% ERDF, it also calculates the difference, which is 20%, which represents the partner contribution, but which we are going to split it down between the difference of 2% and 18%. And in order to do so, I already calculated the 2% which represents the own contribution, which is 13,438.4. Just to mention that the decimals are separated with commas, not with dots. So be careful when filling in amounts in the system. And we can see below the table a writing in red mentioning that the total of contribution must match the final partner contribution. Otherwise, the system will not let me change. As you can see, the save button is not active, so it's not letting me save. And it also offers me the difference. So what I have to do actually is only calculate the own contribution, which is 2%, and the system automatically calculates for me the difference, which is now representing the Romanian state budget, and it's 120,945.6. And now you can see that the own contribution and the state budget contribution added matches the difference mentioned here, and now the system is letting me save the changes. One important thing to mention here is that probably sometimes due to different roundings done by the system, because you can see that the system only calculates with 2 decimals, so in case the calculations are more complicated and there are more decimals after the comma, the system will make roundings on the amounts. So in this case, it is possible sometimes to exceed maybe 18% for the Romanian state budget, which is this is not permitted. So in case after making the calculations the amount here exceeds the 18%, then you would have to try to add maybe 1 euro cent, 2 euro cents, depending on the difference, to the own contribution, not to exceed the 18% for the Romanian state budget. But it probably won't happen to many projects. So again, after filling in all the information, the system did let me save, and at the bottom of the screen it shows me a subtotal of the public contribution, and of course this could be splitted by public and private contribution, but in our case both the lead partner's source of financing and the state budget are public, so therefore the system automatically calculates a subtotal only for the public contribution. Now let's move on to the last subsection of the partner section, which is state aid. And here you can see that there are 4 questions grouped into 2 criterions, which are required to fill in order to self-check the state aid criteria. And again, if we're talking about this competitive call for proposals, the state aid is not permitted, and any activities fulfilling state aid criteria cannot be financed. In this regard, during the application phase, every project partner needs to perform a self-assessment on the nature of activities carried out in the framework of the project. Thus, Every partner needs to assess the risk if activities carried out in the project can be considered as economic activities and if the partner an advantage from gains an advantage from them and it would not have had otherwise. This self-assessment can be performed thanks to the questions of the application form, which are predefined in the system. Each partner is asked to answer on state aid and to conclude on a risk appreciation, respectively, if the project activities are in line with the call's objectives and therefore that they are not state aid relevant, or if the project has a risk, has a high risk that activities are likely to be state aid relevant. The responsibility of each partner entails therefore to answer state aid criteria self-check questions in order to provide sufficient information for both partners' organizations and the program in order to appreciate the risk. And I will not go into details related to the questions, but I will show you what happens in case, for example, I answer yes to all questions. You can see that the system has identified that there is a risk of state aid, and therefore you have to reanalyze, reassess your activities. But of course, if you answer no, then the system will automatically inform me that there is no risk of state aid. Of course, for each question, you have to select an answer, yes or no, and also the justification is mandatory. Otherwise, the system will not let me submit the project. So the justification is absolutely necessary. You can see there are here 1,000 characters for each justification field. And after that, I can save the modifications I made on this section. Of course, please take into consideration that the state aid incident will be subject to evaluation, and therefore, in case it will be identified the risk by the evaluators, there could be possibly clarifications submitted and so on. And as I said, I will not be entering into details related to the state aid questions, but you can for sure find many details in the applicant's guide for this call for proposals. Now that we've finished filling in all the subsections of the lead partner, identity, address, contact, budget, and so on, I can show you, we can go back to the partners overview and we can see here an overview of all the partners which have been added to this application. You can see their status, the abbreviation, the partner role, the nuts tree, which is in this case is Constanța, and the total eligible budget of that partner. Of course, I also have the option to delete the partner if I want to. And also, you can see that I have the add new partner button is active and I can add other partners. But I want to show you that in this under this program, you can also add associated organizations, which are referred to in the applicant's guide as associated partners, which are actually applicants involved in the project without financially contributing to the project. And these associated partners could be the key stakeholders of the project whose involvement can improve the planning and development of project outputs and results. They can help to sustain and mainstream project results generated multiplier and leverage effects. So this is the definition from the applicant's guide. In case you identify any other organizations that could be part of this project but are not actually having budgets or activities, then you can add them here to associated partners. So in order to add an associated partner, you can go to the specific section and click the button add new associated organization, and here you can fill in, you need to fill in also a form related to the information regarding this specific organization, the name in the original language, in English language. You have to write, you have to select the partner that this organization is associated with. You can see here you can link to a partner who is supported by the associated organization. Also write the country, the address of that associated organization, also the name of the legal representative, data of a contact person, and so on. And after that, click on the create button and the associated organization will be automatically created. No other information related to the associated organization has to be filled in. And now, before moving on to the section C, project description, I want to go back a bit to project overview to show you that now the information mentioned here is complete. And I also have information about the project name, the priority, and specific objective. And also to show you that in project overview tables, I now have also information related to the budget, although we have introduced only one partner until now. And in order to make this tutorial and this test more closer to reality, I'm going to introduce a new partner, a partner 2, with its own budget, in order to see how the system is overviewing here in partners overview the list of partners, in order to see the budget with 2 partners and so on. And therefore I will be introducing another partner, and I will come back to show you how this partner overview looks like with 2 partners added. So I'm coming back now after I have added a new partner, partner 2, a Bulgarian partner from Dobrich. It has its own budget, as I said, but I still haven't finalized the budget, as I wanted to show you now how the lump sums can be split between partners. And now you can see when I access the section project lump sums, I have the option also to split the amounts between project partners. For example, I will fill in 10,000 euro for LP and the difference for the partner 2. We'll do the same for the project closure lump sum and add the difference for partner 2. Now this time I have the project lump sums now split between the 2 partners. And of course, after I do this, I also had to go back to each project partner and modify the co-financing in order to observe the changes I already did, because the lead partner budget was automatically reduced because I reduced the lump sum, and for project partner 2 I had to go on and fill in also the co-financing section. As you can see, I added here Bulgarian state budget and calculated the 2% and the remaining 80% for the state budget. And you can see here in the left menu, now I have two partners. And if I go on each one of them, if I click on each one of them, I can automatically see the information related to these partners. And of course, if I go to partners overview, I can see the information related to both partners in a table over there. But now let's move on to the section C, the project description, and of course we'll begin with the project overall objective. But before going through all the sections of the project description, I would like to mention that the purpose of all these sections are to describe basically your whole project and the overall logic. So basically, after filling in all these sections from project description, you will be able to answer these questions. What do you want to achieve? Why is this needed and for whom? How does it fit into the bigger picture? How will you do it? Basically by describing the activities. What will be delivered through the outputs and what will change at the end, these being the results. But let's start with the first section, C1, project overall objective. And in the first part of this section, you can see the program priority specific objective your project will contribute to, which you chose in section A1. And going to section A1, you can see here that after I selected the priority axis 2, I also selected a specific objective, and this was automatically generated here in section C1. Below this, you can see that you need to fill in the project overall objective. It's also mentioned here that now you have to think about your main objective, which is specific to your project. What do you aim to achieve by the end of your project? And remember that your project needs to contribute to the program's objective. Of course, that your objective has to be linked to the priority specific objective. Also, when creating your objective, this should be realistic and achievable by the end of the project or shortly after. Specify who needs project results and in which territory. And of course, the objective has to be measurable. And all this information can be inserted, filled in here in this field, which has a limit of 500 characters. Going further to the next section of the project description, C.2, project relevance and context. This section has multiple subsections which need to be filled in with the information related to your project, and start with C2.1, in which you have to mention what are the common territorial challenges that will be tackled by the project. Here you have to describe why your project is needed in the program area and the relevance of your project for the program area in terms of common challenges and opportunities addressed. You would have a limit of 5,000 characters for this field. The next question is, how does the project tackle identified common challenges and or opportunities, and what is new about the approach the project tackles? Here you also have to describe new solutions that will be developed during the project and or existing solutions that will be adopted and implemented during the project lifetime. Describe also in what way the approach goes beyond existing practice in the sector program area participating countries. Also 5,000 character limit for this field. Moving on, section 2.3, why is cross-border cooperation needed to achieve the project's objectives and results? Of course, one of the most important characters of any project within this program is the cross-border cooperation is the cross-border character, and here you'll have also 5,000 characters to explain why the project objectives cannot be efficiently reached acting only on a national level, and describe what benefits the project partners, target groups, and so on gain in taking a cross-border approach. Of course, all these sections are explained in the applicant's guide. You can read the applicant's guide if you need more details in order to fill in these sections. Moving down to the next section, 2.4, who will benefit from your project outputs. Here you basically introduce the target groups, and you can select from the already predefined ones, or in case you cannot identify the one you want to select, you can always choose other. You can add multiple target groups, and in the right part, in the right field, you will have to specify, to be more specific on what you are referring to. You have a 2000 character limit here. This is also text input, and of course, in case you want to delete one of them, just click on the trash icon. Remember you to save as frequently as you can, so you don't have issues later on. Moving down to section C2.5, how does the project contribute to wider strategies and policies? Here you have to indicate to which strategies and policies your project will contribute. And then also you have to describe this contribution. You'll have here predefined 3 strategies: EU strategy for Danube region, European Green Deal, territorial agenda, and you can also select other in case your project contributes to one of the strategies which has not been already predefined. So also here on the right field, also 2000 character limit, right here your contribution. You can also add multiple strategies. You always have to define your contribution to them. Saving changes again. Moving to C2.6, which synergies with past or current EU and other projects or initiatives will the project make use? Here you also have an add button, in which you describe the project or the initiative and explain the synergy. For both fields here, there is a 2000 character limit, also text input, and also can be deleted in case you want to. Save changes, and in the last field, in the last section 2.7, how does the project build on available knowledge? Here you should describe the experience, lessons learned that the project draws on, and other available knowledge the project capitalizes on. Of course, it is not mandatory, as in case there is no lessons learned from other projects, then you can write here not applicable, but there's a limit of 5,000 characters for this field. But before moving on, I have to mention that under this section here, 2.5, here you have to also include the 2 other horizontal principles, a new European Bauhaus and green procurement, by using the other option and mentioning in the other field the contribution of the project to these 2 initiatives. These horizontal principles are apart from the other 3 which are mentioned here in section C7. which are mandatory: sustainable development, equal opportunities, and non-discrimination, equality between men and women, which we will be addressing later on in the tutorial. And the other two, as I already mentioned, the other two horizontal principles can be added here in section 2.5. In section 2.5, how does the project contribute to wider strategies? Here you'll add also the other two horizontal principles, new European Bauhaus and green procurement. The next section, which has to be filled in, is C.3, project partnership. Here it's pretty self-explanatory. You have to describe the structure of your partnership and explain why these partners are needed to implement the project and to achieve the project objectives. Of course, you have to answer to the question, what is the contribution of each partner to the project? So here you can write you can enter the answer to this question and the explanation of why this partnership is needed to implement the project. There is a limit of 5,000 characters. Don't forget to also save after filling in the information. Moving on to the next section, C.4, project work plan. When you first enter this section, you can see that the system informs us that no work packages have been created, and in order to create one, we have to add new work package. For now, we only have the number of the work package, and if we click on it, then we can start filling in all the information for this for the work package. So the first thing we have to do is enter the work package title, and after that we can start filling in the objectives of the work package. As I told you earlier, each project needs to have an overall objective which should contribute to the priority specific objective, but also the project needs to have project specific objectives, and these will be defined by each work package. So you will have as many you'll have as many work packages, as many project specific objectives you will define. So the principle here, it's the same as the overall objective. You need to define one, and this should be realistic, specific, and measurable. So here you will define one project specific objective that will be achieved when all activities in this work package are implemented and outputs delivered. You can write here your specific objective, have 1,000 characters limit, and below you will have to address the communication objective and the target audience, also 1,000 character limit within this field. Okay, after saving, we can move on to investment. So if your work package has an investment, then you can add one by clicking the add investment button, and this will take me to the form to be filled in with all the information related to that investment. First of all, it's the investment title. Then we'll have to select the expected delivery period. After that, we have to write in a justification to explain why this investment is needed. 2,000 characters here. After that, we'll have to clarify, to clearly describe the cross-border relevance of the investment, also at 1,000 character limit. We have to describe who is benefiting from this investment and in what way. Also, in case of pilot investment, we will have to clarify which problem it tackles, which findings you expect from it, how it can be replicated, and how the experience coming from it will be used for the benefit of the program area. Okay, after that, you have to enter the location of the physical investment, and this is basically here like introducing a partner. And when you introduce the address for the partner, this is similar by um, selecting the country. After that, the nuts region, the nuts 2 region, and the nuts 3 region, the street, the house number, the postal code, and the city. After we introduce the location of the physical investment, we'll have to describe the risk associated with the investment, the investment documentation. Here you should list all technical requirements and permissions required for the investment according to the respective national legislation. So if these are already available, you should attach them to the application within the application annexes. But here you have to describe them. Also, you have for investments in infrastructure with an expected lifespan of at least 5 years, you'll have to indicate whether an assessment of expected impacts of climate change has been carried out. Should it be necessary, you must be ready to submit this documentation to the relevant program bodies. To make here the description. For more details on this, please document the applicant guide. Also, you should mention the ownership, who owns the site, where the investment is located, and who will retain ownership of the investment at the end of the project. Of course, in the last field, we'll have to of course mention who will take care of the maintenance of the investment after the project is finalized. We'll have to describe this here. And after filling in all the information, you can click on the create button and you can see that the system has created my investment. Now I have multiple information in this table, the number, the investment title, and the location. And in case I want to delete it, I can click on the trash icon. And if I want to check it again, I just click on it and I can see it. I can also access it from the left menu, from work package, investment. I can find it here. Okay, now after filling in the investment, I want to go back to the budget because I was explaining earlier when we were discussing about the budget that that the expenditure can be linked to an investment. So, for example, I have created here an investment, an expenditure related to infrastructure and works, and I can, if I search for an investment here now, you can see that I can link it to investment 1.1, the one which is which we just created under work package 1. And after selecting, of course, after selecting the investment, we'll have to save and then go back to the work package and continue with the activities. In order to add an activity, you simply click on the button add activity and the system will generate the screen with the list of activities and you can start filling in the information. So in principle, All projects need to describe how the activities suggested are needed for the delivery of outputs listed in a specific work package. Project partners' involvement in each activity should be described in the activity description. So let's start by filling in the activity, first of all, with the activity title. The start period and the end period have to be selected. And of course, a description in which you explain what I mentioned earlier, how this activity is needed for the delivery of outputs, what is the partner's involvement, and so on. Right here, description. There's a limit of 3,000 characters. Also, within the activities, you have to add deliverables. So it says here, see program rules. Basically, deliverables are mandatories, and these are attached to activities. An activity can have one or more deliverables, but it is recommended to have no more than 3 deliverables per activity. So in order to add one, just click on the add button. You have to write a deliverable title, a description, and a delivery period. Make sure that the delivery period does not exceed the end period of the activity, of course, because a deliverable cannot be delivered after the end date of the period. And if you want to add more deliverables, just click on the add button and fill in all the necessary information. If you need to, you can also delete deliverables in case you want to. We'll save the changes, and if you want to add another activity, just click on the add activity button and fill in the necessary information. It's the same process. Don't forget to add deliverables for this activity too. Once again, make sure that the delivery period does not exceed the end period of the activity. Also save the changes, and we can move on to outputs. In order to create an output within a work package, you'll have to click on the add output button, and the system will show the list of outputs, and you can start filling in the information. But before moving on to Jems, to filling in the information in Jems, I want to mention that within the rules of this competitive call for specific objectives 2.4 and 2.7, in the applicant's guide, it is mentioned that the program results are measured by indicators. So for each specific objective, output and result indicators were set. To each output indicator, a result indicator was also identified. So for each project, it must contribute to at least one output and one result indicator corresponding to the specific objective under which the project is submitted. The pairing of the indicators also must be observed. And this pairing is available in the applicant's guide, and I will briefly show you under the section 2.7. For example, for specific objective 2.4, which we selected in our example in Jems, you can see that, for example, if I select the output indicator pilot actions developed jointly and implemented in projects, I'll have to also select result indicator 104, solutions taken up or scaled by organizations. Or if I want to select output indicator 26, green infrastructure built, I also need to select afterwards the result indicator population benefiting from flood protection measures. So let's see how this is performed in Jems. So here we have the list of outputs, and we start introducing the output. So we'll first have to fill in the title of the output, the program indicator to which I want to contribute. So let's select this one, 26, green infrastructure built or upgraded for adaptation to climate change. And you can see the system automatically recognize the measurement unit for this, which is hectares. And here I have to enter how many hectares will be upgraded through this project. I'll put here 3. I also have to select the delivery period. Let's say it is the end of the project, and also write a description below. We'll save the changes, and if we want, we can add another output to this work package. We'll name it, for example, O2. The program output indicator, let's say pilot actions. The measurement unit is number of pilot actions. Let's say we have 1 pilot actions developed through this project. Delivery period, also the end of the project, a description, and we'll save the changes. Also, the output title should be in line with the program output indicator. This means that the name of the output title should be similar to the output indicator at program level. So be careful here when naming your output for the project. Next, moving on to project results, which I already mentioned that need to be paired with the outputs already selected in the work plan. So in order to add project results, just click on the add button and the system will show us the project result list, and we can start filling in the information. So because earlier we have selected output 26, green infrastructure built, this means that I have to select result indicator 35, population benefiting from flood protection measures. The system will automatically generate the measurement unit, which is persons. The baseline is 0, and I can fill in the target value. Let's say, for example, with this project, we will contribute to 10,000 persons, and the delivery period, I can select also the delivery period after project implementation. So within this programming period, the result indicators can be also reported within 6 months or 1 year from the date of the project completion. Of course, for more details on reporting indicators and details related in general to indicators, you can also check the guidance on monitoring program indicators for this program, Interreg VI-A Romania-Bulgaria. So let's select after project implementation, and also we'll have to write a result description, which here we have a limit of 1000 characters. You can save the changes, and I'll have to add the second result indicator because we have selected the output indicator pilot actions developed. I'll have to pair it with result indicator 104, solutions taken up or upscaled by organizations, measurement units, number of solutions. The baseline is 0, and the target value will be also 1 because we'll have 1 pilot action developed to the project, and the delivery period for this indicator can also be period 9 the last period of the project, or it could be also after project implementation. Don't forget also to write a description of the result, and also don't forget to save the changes. So here now in project results, the system has listed our two result indicators for our project. And moving on to the next section, C6, we can see our project time plan. This is an overview table that is automatically generated from thematic work packages. So please note that the deliverables are linked to activities. You can see outputs are per work package, and the results are on project level. Also, the time plan shows only periods, not the months. So take into consideration that these are the listed here are the periods. Also, you can see that the deliverables appear when they are foreseen to be delivered. Also, the outputs as we introduce them in period 9, and also the results after the end date of the project. So this table can help you in planning your activities for the implementation of the project. The next section of the application to be filled in is project management. So in addition to the thematic work you will do in your project, you also need time and resources for coordination and internal communication. So the purpose of this section is to find out if the partnership has thought through the implementation of the project and is aware of the time and resources needed for coordination and administrative requirements. So here in this section you'll have also multiple fields to fill in. So we'll start with how will you coordinate your project. Here you'll have to answer who will be responsible for the coordination, and will you have any other management structures, thematic groups, also work package managers. The description has a 5,000 character limit. Also, you have to describe which measures will you take to ensure quality in your project. The description also 5,000 characters. What will be the general approach you will follow to communicate about your project? So, who will coordinate project communication, and how will he or she ensure the involvement of your partners? How will the communication function contribute to transfer your project results? And also, please note that all communication activities should be included in the work packages as an integral part of your project. So there is no need to repeat this information here. So here you'll describe the general approach related to communication, but specific communication activities will be mentioned in the work packages. So at least one communication activity should be added per work package. You also can enter the description here. Next field is to describe how do you foresee the financial management of the project and reporting procedures for activities and budget within the partnership and towards the program. Here you have to define the responsibilities, deadline in financial flows, reporting flows, project-related transfers, reclaims, etc. Also a 5,000 character limit here. And the next section is the cooperation criteria, which is mandatory to be filled in. But first, let's save our changes performed so far, and we can move on to the cooperation criteria. The applicant's guide mentions that in order to be eligible, a project must contribute to at least 3 out of the 4 cooperation criteria, and it also says that joint development and joint implementation are mandatory, so you'll have to select them and describe how you will fulfill these cooperation criteria. The description will be written in the right side of the screen, in the right fields, and the applicant's guide also mentioned that at least one of the 2 remaining cooperation criteria need to be selected also. So either joint staffing or joint financing, also select them. The procedure is the same, and write the description in the right field. Also save the changes, and we can move on to horizontal principles. Here you have to indicate which type of contribution to horizontal principle applies to your project. It is mandatory to fill in this section also, and the procedure is quite simple. For example, for sustainable development, we can choose either the contribution of the project has positive effects, neutral, or negative effects. And on the right field, you have to write the description and how does this contribution has either positive, neutral, or negative effects on it. So the other 2 horizontal principles are equal opportunities and non-discrimination, and equality between men and women. It is mandatory to write description for the selected horizontal principles. Save the changes, and this concludes the project management section. The last section of the project description is related to long-term plans, and here the partners in the project need to describe the sustainability of their project. There's a disclaimer here at the beginning of the section mentioning that as a program, we like to support projects that have a long-lasting effect in the territory and those who will benefit from them. Please describe below what you will do to ensure this. So here you have to fill in 3 fields related to the ownership, durability, and transferability of the project. There are fields that have a limit of 5,000 characters, and in order to find out a more detailed description of what to fill in here, please relate to the applicant's guide. There are also descriptions above the fields to give you hints on what is needed to fill in each field. The next sections of the application are related to the budget, and you will see that all these sections are generated automatically by the system based on the information you already inserted in section B, and of course in section E related to project lump sums. So there are 3 sections with different types of tables describing different information related to your budget. And the first one is related to project budget per co-financing sources, breakdown per partner. And you can see here we have it split between ERDF and the public contribution. As we explained earlier, the private contribution for this project at least is not mentioned because we don't have partners that have private contribution. We also have totals and percent of the total eligible budget attributed to each project partner. The next section is related to project budget overview per partner and per cost category. Also important important information, also split per partner, and all the cost categories here with the totals for each partner from staff, external expertise, equipment, and so on, and of course the lump sums with the total budget per partner and the total budget per cost category. This is why I wanted to add a new partner in order for you to see these tables more in detail and to be more realistic to what you will do when when adding an application. And the last budget section is the overview the project budget overview per partner and per period. Also very important information. You can see the periods are from project preparation to period 9 and of course closure for the lump sums. And the last table shows us the overview per fund per period. So of course we have here only the RDF, which is split per period, and of course the total ERDF here. The next section would be related to project lump sums, but we already went through this section, so let's move on to the application annexes. Here you must upload all the necessary annexes required by the applicant guide and other documents relevant for the project implementation. So in order for more details on related to the annexes which need to be attached to the application, please refer also to the applicant's guide. And in the system you can see that there are multiple sections in which you can upload files. You will have also the possibility to upload files for each partner, and you can see them separate here. And you can also add documents. You can upload documents related to investment, which you will see them separate here. However, if you want to see all the attachments, you can click on the main application attachments section and you can view them all together. So let's try to upload files. I made here a selection of types of files that can be uploaded. So basically the system allows all types of files to be uploaded. I have here a doc, a PDF, an archive, and also an Excel. So basically all types of files could be uploaded here in the application annexes. However, make sure that your files don't have more than 50 megabytes. Otherwise the system will not let you upload that file, as it is the limit of a file size. If you have a document which is larger than that, try to split it in multiple documents in order to have less than this 50 megabytes. You can also write a description for each and one of the uploaded files. You can download the files from here, and also you can delete a file. Let's try to delete one. You can see that it asks me to confirm that I delete this, and it is deleted automatically afterwards. So once again, there are multiple sections you can use to upload the documents. One thing about the file name, try to give suggestive name for each file uploaded. Don't use other language than English to name a file, Romanian or Bulgarian, it would be harder to identify that file. So always use English when inserting a file name. Also, please be careful when naming a file which you will eventually upload in Jems. The file names should be suggestive as they have to be easily identified afterwards by evaluators or other persons who are reviewing your project. So for example, let's upload another file. You can see that I have here, I want to upload, for example, an annex to the application form. Application form A3 state aid self-assessment, and this would be an example of a suggestive name given to a file uploaded in Jems. Also, related to annexes, the applicant guide mentions that all annexes have to be signed electronically. So, in order to apply under this program, you need to have a valid electronic signature in order to sign all annexes. Okay, now moving on to the next section. So before being able to submit the project application, I have to run a pre-submission check. So first of all, I have some disclaimers here. Make sure to submit your project in time before the call end date. Of course, you can have more information on the deadline uh, if you check out the call related details. Also, it's mentioned here that before you can submit your application, the pre-submission check needs to be valid. The check will provide you with an overview of missing or inconsistent data. Results do not update automatically. Run the check again after changes to your application form have been performed. So let's test it. Let's run the pre-submission check, and you can see I have two issues. One, it's in section B, and as you can see, the system has here checks for each section of the application, A, B, C, E, and it shows me exactly where the issue is, where the information is missing. So, for example, for project partners, I have to go to insert the partner motivation for partner 2. It even shows me at what partner the issue is. So let's go back to the partner section, motivation, and yes, you can see that I haven't inserted a description for the partner motivation. Let's write some text here, save the changes, and then I have to go back, run again the pre-submission check, and we can see that no more issues here for project partners, but I still have an issue in project description. In long-term plans, I haven't inserted the ownership, so the ownership is missing, so I have to go back to long-term plans. You can see ownership here, the text, I haven't inserted any text here, and after I inserted the description, I save the changes, and I can go back to the pre-submission to run pre-submission check, and you can see that now we have all the issues solved. There are no issues on either of the sections of the application, and you can also see that the submit project application button is now active, and I can submit my application. However, before submitting an application, I recommend that you go through all the sections again, possibly even ask one of the colleagues in your institution to read the whole application. Be careful because after submitting the project application, you can no longer make any changes on it. So this will be done. So again, try to read all sections again carefully before submitting your project. So, but before I will submit this project, I'll show you the other two sections available here, other two options actually available in the project application, and the first one is the export of the application. So here I can export my application and I can read it offline, and I have here two options in export plugin. I can export the standard application form and also the budget. So let's start by exporting the application form. I can select the version of the application which I want to export, which in this case is version 1, as the project hasn't been yet submitted and we don't have other versions available. The export and input languages are automatically set to English, and I have to just click the export button. I choose where I want to export it, click save, and the system uh, exports the application into a PDF file, and you can check it out. So you can see it shows me when it was downloaded, the version of the application, the language input, the currency, and if I scroll down, I can view all the sections of the application in a PDF format. So everything is available here except for the budget. You can see also the project time plan is here. Every section, every information I have inserted in the system is available in this exported PDF file. But as I said, except the budget, which I can export separately. I can just select here standard budget export, the version also 1 at the current moment, click on the export button, choose where I want to save it, and after that I can see that the system exported the budget in an Excel format this time. So basically here you'll have two sheets. One is with three tables, three general tables related to the budget, per fund, per cost category, and per period, exactly the ones which are available in the system. And this would be helpful in case you want to use this information to edit, to have some personal situations, databases for your project. And the second sheet is the partner budget, which is split by partner, by cost category, and of course by periods. Also very important information uh, in case you want to play a bit with your data. So basically, this is the way you can export your data to view it offline, the application and your budget. It's pretty simple and helpful. And next, let's move on to the last option available for the project application, which is project privileges. And here you can add other users that can have access to your project application. You can see we have some information here. You can invite collaborators to work with you together on your project, but note that you can only invite people that are already registered in the Jems, at the Jems monitoring system. Also, a disclaimer at the beginning of this section: users working at the same time in the same page may lead to unexpected loss of data. Users overwrite other users' content. Yes, so it is best for only one person or for only one user to work at a certain time uh, on the application Otherwise, you may have problems with saving the data. So also it's written here, please make sure a project is properly reviewed before submission. Exactly what I said earlier. Uh, Even though the many other users, let's say, will be working on the application, at the end, check all the data to make sure that the system has saved everything you have written down. So here, as I mentioned, you can add other users that can have access to your application. And in order to do this, you can click the add button. You can see that the system already shows here the applicant user that has created the application, which by default um, has this option to manage the application. Uh, okay, and in order to add another user, click on the add button and write the Jems username, which of course, as I explained at the beginning, it's the email address used to create the account. So for example, I want to add the partner2 user uh, to have access to the application, and I can give three privileges. I can give only the view privilege. In this condition, the Jems user can only view the application and cannot make changes on it. I can give edit privileges, which means that this user can also make modifications and fill in different sections of the application. And I can also give privileges to manage, which means that this user can have access here in this section, project privileges. And of course, it can also have the possibility to submit the application. So after inserting the Jems user I want to add, I click on Save Changes, and you can see that the system informs me that the input data is not valid, and this is because the system recognizes that this user is not created, and therefore you can see it's not letting me save. So please make sure here to add a user which already exists in the system, and I'll try to fill in a user which I know exists in the system to see if the system, yes, you see now if I inserted an already existing user, the system saved and the user was added to my application. And now we can go on and see what happens after we submit the application. So we're going back to check and submit. We have to run the pre-submission check again. You can see that no issues were identified by the system, and I can click on submit project application. The system asks me again if I'm sure to submit it, because this operation cannot be reversed. So once you submit the application, you can no longer have access to modify it. So if you're absolutely sure you want to submit it, click confirm, and the system automatically sends me to the project overview, which I have here other information than I had before. I can see that I have submitted my application. I can see the first submission, the date, and the user which submitted the application. So, as I said before, once the application was submitted, you no longer have access to modify any information within your application. Everything is locked and you can no longer insert data in any of the fields. However, you can have access to the application annexes, but you can only download them, you can no longer delete them, and you can no longer add any other attachments to your application. You could also, of course, export, as I showed you earlier, the application or the budget, and you can also have access to the project privileges. You can add or remove users that have access to your application. So therefore, uh, we have submitted the application. This concludes my presentation on how to create an account and how to fill in an application in Jems. When preparing the application, please also read carefully all the provisions of the applicant's guide and its annexes. Once again, I mentioned that the test call I used for this presentation was a replica of the competitive call for specific objectives 2.4 and 2.7, and I mentioned examples from this particular call. In case you want to apply for a different call, you may still use this presentation, but always check the applicant's guide for the call you want to apply. Thank you for your attention and good luck with your project application.